Hello everybody, and welcome to Ancient Architects. Please subscribe now to get the latest ancient history news and independent research from around the world. This video is thanks to corresponding with a viewer of the Ancient Architects channel on Twitter, T Reynolds, who has an MLIS and MA in Cultural Landscapes, who pointed out a number of features on old maps of Giza that were certainly worthy of investigation. This is a map created by John Perring in 1837, included in the first volume of Operations Carried On at the Pyramids of Giza, co-written by Perring with Howard Vyse. And, as you can see, between the two boat pits on the eastern side of the pyramid, before you reach the trial passages which are marked, is a patch of ground that is labelled Inclined Passages. Looking at aerial photographs and maps from the 20th century, and there really is nothing to see. And actually, this building is placed over the northern end of this patch of ground. What is this building, and what was it built over? Reynolds found out that it was built after Vyse and Perring excavated at Giza, sometime in the 20th century, and it is marked on Google Maps as Giza Governorate, meaning it is not a public building. Reynolds found out that it was once a rest house, and also once a museum. And, doing some digging, I found out it was in fact the rest house of King Farouk of Egypt. It was built in 1946 by Mustafa Fahmy, and apparently it has been disused for a number of years. It's an interesting neo-pharaonic structure that was recently set to be transformed into a reception centre for high-ranking visitors to the pyramids. And, according to the website of Arkinos Architecture, they submitted their design for the restoration that was approved in 2010. Doing some more digging, and I found a paper from last year that says the Royal Rest House is under threat, and a number of cracks are making it unstable. The cracks are apparently from the partial differential settlement of the foundations, from progressive soil slope failure, which basically means the rubble on the edge of the Giza Plateau is moving, and hence so is the building. Now, what we do know is that there are lines and features in the bedrock in front of the Great Pyramid that run straight towards the rest house. Some of them natural as seen here, but according to the map by John Perring, the Royal Rest House seems to sit on an area labelled as Inclined Passages. This picture from the Digital Giza website could be showing the remnants of these mysterious inclined passages that clearly align with the building's enclosure, so we really need to know what the inclined passages are. And, if they're important, surely we should be entertaining the idea of pulling this building down and not restoring it, especially if it is nothing more than a 20th century ruin. Reynolds searched the 3 volumes by Vyse and Perring and sent me the appropriate page numbers that mention the inclined passages. And where mentioned, the authors are clearly referring to the trial passages, which are noted as running north to south, and they also include a diagram. So, I went back to Perring's old map and looked again at the part labelled Inclined Passages. The words on the map sit between the trial passages and this feature here, which is marked on the map in the same way as the trial passages, which look like 2 short lines. Looking on other maps, and these strange features don't get a mention, apart from one that was created 50 years after Perring's and made by Emile Prissé de Vennes, and the map was also sent to me by Reynolds. On this map, de Vennes also marks the strange feature in question, but with no explanation or label, but clearly angled away from the Great Pyramid in a similar direction as marked by Perring. Superimposing the map onto a satellite picture, and de Vennes has them running directly beneath the rest house of King Farouk, whilst Perring has them ending inside the enclosure of the rest house. I'm sure that this photograph from the Digital Giza website does show part of the mysterious structure, and you can see it is clearly cut into the bedrock, and therefore it isn't a natural erosional feature. Maybe it's nothing of note, but if that's the case, I find it surprising the way that Perring labels inclined passages, in a way that clearly follows the orientation of this feature. This to me means that Perring's inclined passages and the inclined passages mentioned in the text of the book, which are of course the trial passages, are 2 separate things, unless of course Perring made an error when labelling the map. Whatever this feature is, it was clearly still noteworthy 50 years later when de Vennes created his map of Giza. So, what are we looking at? Thankfully, this is a mystery I think I can solve without having to speculate too much. I turn my attention to the incredible Airpano website, which shows interactive aerial views of Giza, and also with fantastic resolution. I found the feature in question straight away. You can see a somewhat narrow channel which runs straight from the old Khufu mortuary temple directly to the surrounding wall of the 20th century royal rest house. The channel is clearly too narrow and shallow to be anything too significant, and the most logical explanation is that this is just a 4th Dynasty drainage channel. But where does it terminate? What's beneath the royal rest house? Comparing aerial photographs to the old map, and what is clear is that back in 1878, the northern edge of the Giza Plateau extended out a lot further than it does today, and this is because in the 19th century there was a great deal more rubble to the north of the Great Pyramid, which Perring even labels as stone rubbish. Perring also notes where the bedrock begins. Looking at this feature on the Devens map, and at first I thought I was looking at an ancient water channel, but this is actually the true bedrock edge of the Giza Plateau. Here we can see yet more straight lines etched into the bedrock, oriented away from the Great Pyramid and right up to the edge of the plateau. Here we can see them on the Airpano aerial views. They appear to be very shallow and also likely for drainage, unless you can think of a better reason. So, what's beneath the royal rest house? Well, it was built onto rubble on the very edge of the Giza Plateau. The plateau's edge runs right beneath the building, and so it is no surprise that this building is at serious risk of collapse. At the start of this video, there were features that I couldn't explain and a royal guest house that was seemingly built over them, but now I think the mystery is solved. I actually think that Perring wrote inclined passages in the wrong place on the 1837 map. It was simply an error that led me on this wild goose chase. It appears he was labelling the wrong feature, misinterpreting the information given to him by Howard Vyse, thinking the drainage channel was in fact the trial passages, as both are drawn in a similar way and both are in a similar location. When Reynolds sent me these maps, I was first hoping to find an old depiction of the rocky platform that I featured in previous videos and shown here. I looked all along the edge of the plateau on both the Perring and Devens maps, but I now know I was looking in the wrong place. This line marked here is the edge of the plateau, and the feature I'm looking for is somewhere around here on the Devens map and also here on the Perring map, likely covered by rubble and sand when both maps were compiled. So, no huge mystery in this video, but after looking at the Perring and Devens maps, I have spotted another site of interest. I noticed a wall running across what appears to be a piece of high ground located to the south of the pyramids. I checked Google Maps and the wall seems to extend even further. And at the end of where it terminates, it looks as though Google has photographed a site being excavated, as we can see here. The wall is labelled 23 on this diagram from Mark Lehner's essay titled The Development of the Giza Necropolis, the Khufu Project. But all he says is that it's the remains of a rough stone wall included in the plans of Perring, Vyse and Lepsius, and that it is still there today on top of a hill. Interestingly, it lies directly due north of a 3rd Dynasty mud brick mastaba that is known as Covington's Tomb, which is right next to a rectangular stone structure approximately 28 metres by 12. It was excavated by Auguste Mariette, and the structure was described as the picturesque ruins of a large bluish-grey stone mastaba. The area south of the main Giza Plateau contains a number of pre-4th Dynasty burials, and, looking at this wall, and what must be an excavated structure that it seems to be leading to, there could well be a lot more to find south of the pyramids. The oldest mastaba found in South Giza actually dates to the 1st Dynasty. It is located about 1.5 miles to the southeast of the Great Pyramid, and contains a large 35-foot long burial chamber, and is very similar in appearance to the 1st Dynasty royal burials in Abydos, in terms of how it looks and the architectural style. There are also more 1st Dynasty burials around it. Some of the finds at the site display the seal of King Jet, the 4th king of dynastic history, who we know was buried in Abydos. So, at Giza, there is surely so much more to be discovered, and the entire region does have a history that goes back to the First Dynasty, and likely into pre-dynastic times. This wall is clearly prominent, and the excavations on Google Maps do look recent, and any finds will surely predate the 4th Dynasty. Photos around this area show bedrock, but on the slopes of the hill, there does appear to be loose blocks of cut stone. What is this site? If you have any information or any sources, please be sure to comment below. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Ancient Architects. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel, please like the video, and please leave a comment below. Thank you very much.